In the first scene, a boy named Amada is sitting alone in a theater, watching a movie called The Skies of Aquaria. He is so engrossed in the movie that he doesn't notice his father has entered the room. His father wonders why Amada is always watching this movie, and asks if he is captivated by the actress Alicia, who played the character Sylphie. Although Amada loves the movie, it doesn't seem to have a large audience. It's revealed that Amada also works at the theater with his father. Later, Amada is cleaning the theater when he sees a girl sitting alone, deeply engrossed in the same movie. She is even shedding tears from her emotional reaction. Amada talks to her, and he sees a resemblance between the girl and the actress Alicia. They introduce themselves, and the girl's name is Mikono Suzushiro. The two immediately get along well. As they continue talking, Amada gets excited and it seems he is about to lift off the ground. He excuses himself and goes to his room, where he opens a panel on his leg and adds 3 metal plates. After this, he rejoins Mikono outside the theater, and they take a boat ride together. They discuss the events happening on their planet, Vega, including the presence of abductors, who cause problems and kidnap people. During their conversation, Amada touches Mikono, and suddenly a flying cat jumps out of Mikono's hair and attacks Amada, trying to protect its owner. Mikono introduces the cat as Shushu. Later, they stop to enjoy the view of the park, and Mikono talks about a hidden academy that trains elements, people with special powers who are chosen to pilot Akarias. Again, Amada gets excited and excuses himself to the restroom. Just then, abductors appear from the skies in their scary-looking robots. The robots start to attack the city and kidnap people. Before the situation gets worse, M-type Aquarias show up to engage the intruders. Amada returns to where Mikono is staying, and they can watch the fight from above. Out of nowhere, a large abductor shows up and goes after the Aquaria. The Aquarius has no answer to the abductor's skillful moves. It's a shock to them that the abductor has a pilot, unlike the rest of the robots they have encountered. At the HQ, the commander receives an order from above to send in the F-type Aquaria to support the M-type ones. This has never happened before, as the F-types and M-types have never been on the field together. The F-types arrive and are able to provide support, but they need to be careful not to merge with the boys. Even with the arrival of the F-type Aquaria, the large abductor still plays around with them. He gracefully dodges all their attacks while also dealing damage to them. During the battle, a statue collapses and almost falls on Mikono, but Amada shields her, taking in all the damage. The large abductor has subdued all the Aquaria. He is about to finish one off when he feels something behind him. Amada and Mikono together. The Aquarias try to defend them, but they suddenly get ejected from their robots. Amada figures out that they are in danger and has no choice but to reveal his power. He removes the metal plates on his legs, reducing his weight, and is able to carry Mikono and fly from under the rubble. This shocks the abductor's pilot. Mikono and Amada suddenly find themselves inside a Vector's cockpit. Amada then tells Mikono that he will make use of a power he has been hiding. He calls out a forbidden name known as Aquarian. Immediately, his vector fuses together with the other vectors and their pilots, overriding the stone that prevents the process. The vectors all come together as one giant vector that stands tall above the city. In a quick scene, we learn that the abductors are from another planet or dimension. The reason for their invasion is not yet known, but it can be deduced that they have similar technologies to Earth's. The organization responsible for fighting the abductors is called the Neo-Diava. They use 2 types of Aquaria, F-type for females and M-type for males. The 2 vectors cannot merge together due to a stone barrier. The elements, which are the pilots of the Aquaria, are kept in separate dorms, with a wall between them, known as the Berlin Wall. The males have no access to the females, and vice versa. The male elements are in a training session when they receive an alert that the abductors have arrived. The elements start to feel a strong sensation from the merging of the vectors. This is the first time they will experience this. The male and female vectors are not allowed to merge due to the same reason. With the giant vector merging, the Aquaria becomes one big robot, with Amada as the chief pilot. The pilot of the abductor's robot is attracted to someone inside the Aquaria and smiles evilly, realizing his target is in front of him. Mikono is surprised to find herself inside the Vector's cockpit. Cayenne, one of the pilots, communicates with them, believing Amata is a terrorist for hijacking the Vector. Mikono argues that Amata saved her, not that he is a terrorist. Cayenne informs the headquarters that there is a civilian couple inside the robot. They try to sever the connection, but it doesn't work. The commander reveals that Aquarian is different from Aquarius and is the perfect form, able to withstand both males and females, unlike the gender-specific Aquarias. The abductor continues its attack on the Aquarian. Amata doesn't know how to control the Aquarian very well, giving the abductor the opportunity to keep hitting him. Instinctively, Amada activates a powerful energy blast from the Aquarian's head, forcing the enemy away. Those at the base keep wondering who Amada is, as he must be special to have synchronized with the Aquarian. The abductor returns with another wave of attack, pushing the Aquarian to the ground. Suddenly, abductor reinforcements arrive. They inform the large abductor pilot, whose name is revealed to be Kagura, that he has been ordered to return. Kagura insists that he wants to keep fighting. The abductors attack the Aquarian again. One of the female pilots, Jessica, is forced to teach Amada how to use the robot's weapon. With one push from his hand, Amada is able to destroy the abductors' reinforcements, surprising everyone that Jessica's element can resonate with Amada. Since Kagura is free from those who want to take him back to their planet, he comes after the Aquarian once again. Cayenne's power also resonates with everyone because of the Aquarian effect, giving him the ability to see the future. They see a vision of a wedding with a funeral procession, where Mikono is the bride and the groom appears to be Kagura. Kagura attacks the Aquarian and uses some metals to pin the robot down. Cayenne starts blaming Amada for everything that is happening. This reminds Amada of his past. He has always been an outcast because of his powers, and people prefer to run away from him. He has been abandoned many times. However, the current situation is different. Mikono is ready to stay with him no matter what happens. This motivates Amada, and he subconsciously powers up the robot. The Aquarian breaks free from its bonds and flies up into the sky. The Aquarian grabs the abductor and pushes him into the air. Amada's power is gravity manipulation, which allows the Aquarian to fly. He pushes the abductor into space orbit and then into a space rock. Kagura is stubborn and charges at them again, but a dimensional portal opens, and he is ordered to return home. He tries to break free, but the portal pulls him in. The Aquarian falls back to Earth after this. Mikono and Amada are rescued from the ship, but Amada is knocked out after being rescued. There are plans to take him to the academy. Meanwhile, Kagura reaches his home planet and tells his people that he has found the right woman for him. The leader of the abductors, Izumo, informs his assistant, Jin, that the Aguras sent to Vega to gather have lost their functionality. Most of them have become useless during transit. They need the Aguras for something important on their home planet, Alter. Izumo decides to put Jin in charge of operations, even though Kagura might complain. Back in Vega, Amada wakes up in a strange room and comes face to face with Cayenne. He starts asking questions, and Cayenne has to summarize everything Amada needs to know. He tells Amada that he is currently in Neo Diava, where elements are trained to pilot Aquaria. Amada realizes that he is in the academy Mikono mentioned. Cayenne explains that the pilot's job is to repel the abductors who came from another dimension. This answers almost all of Amada's questions, and now Cayenne needs to show him around the academy. Cayenne shows Amada the classroom. Amada sees that he is popular because he can pilot an Aquaria without training, and was able to merge the Aquaria together. After that, Amada is taken to the cafeteria, where he notices the wall separating the female academy from the male, known as the Berlin Wall. Cayenne tells him that he is brought to the academy because he needs to be tested. Mikono is also in the female area getting tested. Amada wants to know more about Mikono, but Cayenne refuses to share. Cayenne then asks Amada what his relationship with Mikono is. Amada replies that he just met Mikono, so he doesn't have much of a relationship with her. He worries that Cayenne is Mikono's lover, but feels relieved to learn that Cayenne and Mikono are siblings. Cayenne talks about how he has always protected his sister from harm. The two almost get into a fight when Amada talks about Mikono in a romantic way. Their argument is stopped by Instructor Donar's voice. He orders Amada not to eat for now, because he will be going for an aptitude test. Depending on the test results, he might be kept at the academy. Amada has changed the status of Aquaria to Aquarian because of his actions the day before. Moments later, Amada is taken to the lab for his test. The test results show that his power is gravity manipulation, which explains why he can fly. His power activates whenever he feels emotional distress, and is a reaction to his feelings. It might also activate when he needs to protect a loved one. The commander is worried because the test results do not explain how the Guy's Stone was destroyed. With further analysis, they discover that there are memories of Aquarian buried deep in Amada's mind. Suddenly, the machine starts to malfunction and stops working. The commander is informed that someone interfered with the test to prevent them from completing the psychoanalysis. Meanwhile, in the female academy, Jessica, who merged with the boys, starts to share her experience with them. The girls are all interested and wish to merge with a boy too. The class president, Mix, tries to tell the girls that it is forbidden. She reminds them that the Berlin Wall exists because of this. Mix asks Mikono some basic questions, but Mikono does not provide clear answers. Mix wants to know about Cayenne, but Mikono simply says she is no longer living with him and doesn't know what he is doing. Mix assumes that Mikono also has elemental powers since they run in her family. That night, Amada hears the sound of a piano playing while trying to sleep. He decides to check it out. He makes his way outside the dorm, but falls into a pit. He meets another cadet, Andy, who is digging the hole to reach the girls' dorm. Andy's elemental power allows him to dig through the soil easily. Amada offers to help because he wants to see Mikono. They start digging quickly and soon reach the female dorm. They make an opening, and Amada is surprised to see Mikono standing right there. When he tries to stand up, he accidentally pushes his head into Mikono's thighs. Mikono feels embarrassed and runs away, causing Amada to lose his chance to talk to her. The two quickly jump back into the hole before the guards discover them. The following morning, the commander tells the boys to get ready for their monthly battle simulation. He announces the 3 names that will pilot the Aquaria: Cayenne, Andy, and Amada. This shocks everyone because Amada is still a new student. When the simulation begins, Amada is not serious at first, but he changes his mind when he realizes that the girls are watching. He activates his power and easily fuses with the other vectors. With one burst of energy, Amada destroys his enemies, and the game is forced to quit before time runs out. Meanwhile, back on Alter, it seems they are waiting for the emergence of a man named Sir My Cage. Next, Donar is informed that Mikono will be sent home because she has been tested for elemental powers and has none. There was also an Aquarian tragedy that happened years ago, which Donar prefers not to discuss. Moments later, Mikono is getting ready to leave and feels sad that she won't get to say goodbye to Amada. Zessica approaches her and asks if she knows that she is the one Amada apologized to during the simulation battle. Zessica teases Mikono, saying she must have a strong hold on Amada for him to go to such lengths. Meanwhile, Andy discovers that the hole he dug in the female dorm has been filled. He cannot easily dig another one in the same spot because it was sealed by a power user. He suspects that one of the girls is behind sealing the hole. Amada wonders if Andy has considered that it might actually be a guy and not a girl. Amada hears the same piano tune he heard the day before and asks about it. Andy tells him that the one playing the piano is Shrade, who is considered the #1 student in the academy. Amada wants to meet him and heads to the room where Shrade is playing the piano. Shrade is not surprised to see Amada because he has been expecting him. Shrade and Amada are still getting to know each other when Cayenne enters the room looking for Amada. He is clearly angry and plans to beat Amada up for what he did during the simulation training. Shrade warns Cayenne that he doesn't allow fighting in his area, but Cayenne ignores him. He grabs Amada by the neck. Shrade starts to play his piano, which affects Cayenne psychologically. The music makes Cayenne see a vision of his sister dying. Andy tells Amada that Shrade's elemental power allows him to touch people's minds with sounds. When Shrade stops playing, Cayenne regains control and tries to attack him, but Shrade easily dodges the attack. Suddenly, an alarm goes off, warning them that abductors have arrived and are causing chaos in a certain area. The elements are immediately summoned. Andy, Cayenne, and Amada are the three who will take out the Aquaria to fight the enemies. The trio quickly rolls out and merges together to become Aquarian. Meanwhile, Mikono is on a boat away from the academy when she learns that the abductors are nearby. She feels a sense that something might go wrong and worries about Amada. The Aquarian is on the battlefield but is surrounded by enemy forces. The enemies are moving much faster than before, suggesting that they have a commander hiding somewhere. They need to find the commander and eliminate him quickly, but they don't know how. Someone suggests using their trump card, Shrade. Shrade begins to play a tune that reaches Cayenne, allowing him to pinpoint where the puppet master is hiding. They discover that he is hiding in space, hooked onto one of the stars. The puppet master is Jin, and he is using the battle to gather data. They have no weapons that can reach Jin where he is hiding. The abductors have surrounded the Aquarian and pinned it down, with their weapons already hooked inside. There is no escape. Meanwhile, the boat transporting Mikono suddenly changes course and heads for the academy. The driver grabs Mikono and takes her to the operation room. He has a hat covering his head. He barges into the room and orders that Andy be ejected and replaced with Mikono. Donar rushes toward the man and removes his disguise, revealing that he is their supreme commander, Zen Fudo. Zen tells Mikono to get aboard the Aquarian, but she argues that she has no powers. Zen tells her that her presence is enough to give Amada and Cayenne the boost they need. The two are ready to do anything to protect her, and because of this instinct, they will go beyond their limits. Mikono agrees, and is immediately substituted for Andy. Cayenne and Amada are surprised to see her. She tells Amada that she forgives him for headbutting her. This allows them to awaken Aquarian again. However, Cayenne worries that something might happen to Mikono. This is the vision he has always had concerning her, which is why he doesn't want her near the Aquarian. Mikono convinces her brother that she will be fine. Mikono joins hands with Amada, stimulating the Aquarian, and its heart starts to beat. Aquarian uses a technique called the Mugen Punch to extend its arm into space and chase Jin away from his hiding spot. Jin manages to escape but has collected enough data already. He is confident that Izuma will be pleased with him. Aquarian's arm extends around the globe and eventually reaches the academy. It hits the academy and breaks the Berlin Wall, allowing the boys and girls to see each other for the first time. They are about to rush toward each other when Zen announces that romance is prohibited. Meanwhile, Sir My Cage awakens on Alt. The students are still complaining about Zen's rule when the director arrives. The director is a girl, and no one expects her to hold such an important position. Miss Suomi asks the commander why the director has not been around. He replies that both the director and Zen have gone on different journeys to solve the mystery of Aquarian. Their return means they have clues about Aquarian. The mystery of Aquarian involves the story of Sylphie and Apollon, two lovers who yearned for each other, and their excess led to destruction. This tale happened 12 years ago, and they have been hiding this power because of it. Even though the power is forbidden, it seems they might have to rely on it again since the enemy has grown stronger, and they need to find a way to stop them. Donar seems to understand what the group is discussing. Meanwhile, on Alter, Jin is informed that Izumo requires his presence. Jin honors his boss's request, and together they analyze the data Jin collected from Vega. They can see that a new technique was used by the Aquaria in their last battle. Just then, Izumo learns that Kagura has left the planet and is heading for Vega alone. Izumo decides not to stop him. At that moment, a dimensional gate opens, and Izumo realizes that Sir Mike Cage is awake. Back in Vega, the female and male students are having their first joint class together. The male students, especially Andy, are excited about this. He is happy to be around girls, which is what he has been looking forward to. Even Amada blushes upon seeing Mikono. Suddenly, a dart hits him on the bum, snapping him out of his emotional daze. To continue their class, the students will take a trip to the city, where they will stroll around the tower and the harbor. The teacher starts calling out the groups and their members, with 3 people in each group. Andy finds out that he is in Group C, along with Mix and Yunoha. Mix is not a favorite among the guys, which might be a problem for Andy, who likes girls. As the students gather, they start receiving random electric shocks from the bracelets they are wearing. The last group consists of Amada, Jessica, and Mikono. They soon arrive at the location where they need to separate. The students are reminded to be back on the boat before it leaves. However, they continue to receive electric shocks from the bracelets. In the operations room, we learn that the bracelets are designed to measure the students' emotions. This is part of the director's plan to prevent the students from forming strong emotional connections. When the bracelet detects that a student's emotional status is rising too high, it delivers a shock. The director reveals that there was a love story between Donar and his late lover, Nonanon. Their love was powerful, but ultimately led to disaster. Nonanon died, and Donar lost both of his arms. While love can help the Aquarian fight better, they must be cautious about it. The bracelets are meant to stop the students from becoming emotionally attached, as Donar does not want a repeat of what happened to him. Amada gets hit by a dart every time he starts floating, which happens whenever he has romantic feelings for Mikono. Donar is in the distance, shooting him with darts to prevent this. Meanwhile, in the operations room, they monitor each group to see which one is doing better. As Amata and his group walk through the market, he floats whenever he gets close to Mikono. He has been shot several times, but it hasn't stopped him. Donar is now worried that he doesn't have enough darts to keep Amata grounded. Mikono, on the other hand, is happy that Amata always floats for her, feeling it means she is the only one in his heart. However, when Jessica touches Amata, he floats for her too. This worries Mikono, making her question if she might be wrong about Amata's feelings. Meanwhile, we learn that Kagura has infiltrated Vega and is searching for Mikono. Later, Amata's group is at the arcade when Mikono angrily walks away after seeing Amata float for Jessica again. Amata chases after her, trying to convince her that he only cares for her. They reach the top of the tower, where the scenery resembles a scene from a movie they both love. A man on the roof starts to play a romantic tune for them, drawing them closer together. The bracelet on Mikono starts to throb, indicating her emotional state. Those in the operations room can see that Mikono is developing romantic feelings. Donar has no way to stop what is happening between them. As Amata and Mikono's love continues to grow, Kagura suddenly shows up on the tower and drags Mikono away from Amata. As he does this, Mikono faints from the electric shock delivered by her bracelet. Zen and the others quickly realize that Mikono didn't pass out because of love, but rather from a forbidden encounter. As soon as the authorities learn that an abductor is active in the city, all the elements are ordered to return to the academy. Cayenne is reluctant to go back because he knows his sister is in danger, but Schrade tells him to prioritize his duty. He reminds Cayenne that he is a fighter and should not let his emotions cloud his judgment. Schrade offers to stay behind to help. Meanwhile, on the tower, Amata tries to protect the unconscious Mikono from Kagura. Kagura threatens him, and Amata initially takes a step back. Kagura claims that Mikono is his woman and warns Amata not to come between them. However, Amata is determined not to give up on Mikono. He pushes Kagura, causing Mikono to fall from his grasp. Amata quickly grabs Mikono and jumps off the tower. Wings appear beneath his feet, allowing him to fly away with her. Kagura considers chasing after them, but suddenly feels a sharp pain in his head. He looks back to see Schrade playing the guitar, using the instrument to mess with Kagura's mind. Meanwhile, on Altair, Izumo and Jin are having a meeting when Maikage appears to them via holographic display. Maikage was the one who helped Kagura open the gate to go to Vega. Kagura claims he is after a rare Igura, and Maikage wants to see how powerful and unique it is. After Maikage leaves, Izumo tells Jin to keep monitoring Kagura. If necessary, they will forcibly take his suit, Mithra Ganesh, from him. Kagura then goes to one of the pods in the facility, revealing that Alicia is being kept inside one of them. Back on Vega, Kagura tries to attack Schrade, but Schrade skillfully maneuvers and dodges the attack. Frustrated, Kagura decides to escape instead of continuing to fight Shrade, wanting to go after Mikono as well. While Zessica and the rest of the team are heading to the academy, she asks Donar why Shrade is not allowed to fight in battles. Donar then shares Shrade's story. Shrade has loved playing music since he was young, but his music has a negative effect on people. This negative effect caused his parents to eliminate each other. After that, Shrade was taken in by bad people who used him for their own purposes, turning him into an agent of destruction. Eventually, he was personally scouted by the director. However, they discover that Shrade's life shortens every time he pilots the Aquarian. He is too powerful for the energy that the machine can resonate with, which is why he was removed from the list of pilots. Meanwhile, Kagura is searching the city for Mikono and Amata. He decides to use his suit, knowing it will give him a better view of the city. He enters his suit just as the Aquarian arrives. Cayenne realizes that Kagura is wearing the same monster suit as before. Zen informs them that the suit is called Mithra Gneis. As Kagura travels through the city, the Aquarians find it difficult to stop him. Cayenne's aircraft is knocked against a wall. Meanwhile, Mikono and Amata are hiding in an abandoned house. Zessica is trying to get Kagura out of the city but is not having much luck. Moments later, Kagura finds Amata and Mikono. Cayenne has managed to free himself from the wall he was stuck in, but he now has a broken arm and won't be able to pilot his vector easily. Shrade sees this and volunteers to take over for Cayenne. Although Cayenne is hesitant because it is dangerous, Shrade insists on helping. Shrade takes over the vector and Cayenne is ejected. To change the tide of the battle, Andy is also ejected, and Amata takes control of the vector. He tells Mikono to leave the area for her safety. The authorities are worried about Shrade piloting a vector. The vectors come together to form Aquarian. Shrade's power enhances Zessica and Amata's abilities, creating a new form of Aquarian with Shrade at the helm. Aquarian stands in front of Kagura and his suit, charging toward him to deliver a powerful blow. Shrade feels the effects of the fight and looks exhausted. Kagura also feels the impact of the attack, and his powerful suit is damaged by Shrade's energy. Despite knowing he will likely lose, Kagura wants to continue fighting. Just then, Jin appears and forcefully takes Kagura back to Alter. Mikono watches as Kagura flies into space. Meanwhile, Shrade becomes unresponsive inside the Vector's cockpit. Later, the director visits Shrade in the hospital, trying to convince him to stop risking his life. However, Shrade doesn't seem to care about the danger. He just wants to use his powers without fearing for his life. Back at school, Andy protests that the boys and girls should sit together. He believes there should be some connection between them. Most of the boys agree with Andy and support his idea. The girls also mostly agree, except for Mix, who insists that boys are impure and girls shouldn't associate with them. The teacher decides to hold a ballot to choose their seating partners, and Andy is excited about this decision, hoping to finally sit with a girl. The ballot is prepared, and each student picks their partners. Amata and Mikono end up sitting together, while Andy's bad luck continues as he ends up with Mix, the worst partner he could have hoped for. Cayenne and Shrade are also paired together, which adds some fun since Cayenne sees Shrade as his rival. Meanwhile, Cayenne goes to pick up Shrade from the hospital. Shrade calls Cayenne his good friend, while Cayenne thinks of Shrade as a jerk. Next to Andy, there is a seat occupied by a stuffed animal. They wonder who it belongs to. And then Andy remembers a rumor about the stuffed animal. There was once a female student at the academy who was always alone and had no friends. The loneliness became too much for her, and one day she disappeared from the academy. The stuffed animal was her only friend, and it was said that it could be seen wandering the school at night. Zessica, however, doesn't believe the rumor at all. Back on Altair, Jin is busy running battle simulations, using the data he has collected to improve his suit and weapon. Meanwhile, Kagura has been grounded and will likely remain so for a while. That night, Amata is cleaning the classroom when he notices Zessica looking at him. After he finishes, he realizes that Zessica is still waiting for him. She wants them to leave the classroom together, and it seems they are the only ones in the academic building at that hour. When they reach the door, they find it locked. Amata quickly figures out that Zessica is scared, which is why she is sticking close to him. As they walk through the hallway, they encounter the stuffed animal. They are startled when they see it walking and talking to them. Zessica grabs Amata, and they run away in fear. Meanwhile, Mikono is in the courtyard, thinking about Kagura. She notices Amata and Zessica running out of the building, holding hands, and immediately assumes they are involved in something romantic. The next day, Zessica and Amata try to describe what happened to their classmates, but Mikono interrupts them. Jealously, she accuses them of being lovers. Amata is shocked by this accusation, but there's no time to discuss it because the abductors have appeared again, and they need to prepare for battle. Cayenne, Zessica, and Amata are sent out to engage the enemy. The enemy ship seems to be more powerful than those they have fought in the past. Zen instructs them to avoid direct hits from the ship and to fly low while engaging it. It turns out that Jin is controlling the enemy ship from a safe location. Aquarian soon gets hit by the enemy, causing their energy levels to drop and the suit to become critically damaged. They are forced to split up into individual vectors for better maneuverability and need a solution to their problem. Just then, the commander suggests an element change, substituting Andy for Yunoha. It turns out that Yunoha is the mysterious stuffed animal. The stuffed animal gets into the pilot seat and transforms into a girl. She speaks to her fellow comrades, shocking them as they are surprised that she can talk. Yunoha apologizes for scaring Amata and Zessica the night before, and informs Mikono that the duo is telling the truth. There is nothing going on between them. She asks her comrades to trust her and fight alongside her. With this, the vectors merge together to form Aquarian again. Jin is confident he can defeat Aquarian easily and shoots a blast at them, but it passes right through. It turns out that Yunoha's power grants them transparency, making them invulnerable to the enemy's attacks. They charge toward the enemy and deliver a powerful punch that pushes the enemy back, destroying the machine. Jin concedes defeat but has managed to collect new data from the fight. After the battle, Mikono apologizes for jumping to conclusions about Amata and Zessica. The team reassures Yunoha that they are there for her and that she doesn't need to be shy. They learn that she has been with them all along but used her power to hide herself. Now feeling comfortable, she touches Amata, causing him to float as usual. Zessica and Mikono realize that Amata floats for literally everyone. Next, Andy explains why he is digging holes. He believes there are unexplored worlds beneath the soil and wants to discover them. Specifically, he is referring to the female dormitory and is digging a hole to get to the female changing room. He digs vigorously and soon breaks through to an opening. Inside the small room, he finds a book and excitedly picks it up to show his friends. When he arrives, his friends are busy looking at the pictures they took. Andy tells them about the book he just found, claiming it might be the legendary Book of Twin Stars. This book supposedly allows anyone who possesses it to operate Aquarian at will. His friends ask how he got the book, but Andy struggles to explain, as he can't admit he was aiming for the female dormitory when he found it. Meanwhile, Donar and the others want to know what director Kreia discovered during her journey, but she refuses to share any concrete information. The following day, Andy tells his classmates that he has read the book and found a crucial rule in one of the chapters. He claims that the rule is essential for wielding Aquarian and states that they should always wear white or blue socks. However, his friends quickly realize that the book he found is not a legendary book, but the school's handbook. Andy's mood drops immediately when he realizes this. He thought he had discovered something significant. Meanwhile on Altair, Izumo is discussing matters with Jin. He expresses his frustration about the number of Iguras they have collected that have died during transit. It turns out that the Iguras are women. He explains that an unknown epidemic broke out, eliminating all the women on the planet, leaving only men. They cannot reproduce because there are no women left. All the women they have abducted in the past have died while being transported. Kagura has always believed that Mikono is the woman they need. To confirm this, Izumo decides to send Jin back to Vega. This time, he will pilot the machine himself instead of using remote control, allowing him to assess the situation better. Jin accepts the task and begins modifying his suit again, using the data he has collected to build a more durable version. Now on Vega, Amata and his friends are discussing the school and dress code. Mix accuses Zessica of showing too much skin, saying that a woman shouldn't expose herself too much. Mikono feels tempted to wear revealing clothes, especially since it's clear that Amata has been glancing at Zessica. Suddenly the alarm goes off, indicating that an abductor is active in the city. The elements are required to move out and engage the enemy. Zen sends Amata, Mikono, and Zessica into action. They merge their vectors to form Aquarian. Meanwhile, Kagura watches the fight between Jin and Aquarian, feeling pain as he sees Jin hurt Mikono. Mikono and the others struggle against Jin's ultimate suit, which is prepared for every attack they attempt. Jin makes things worse for them by using infill shots that don't cause external damage but directly harm the operators. Their clothes begin to rip, forcing Aquarian to split back into individual vectors. Jin chases after Zessica, who instinctively dodges an attack that could have ended her. They realize that their bodies can sense incoming attacks once they are exposed. Because of this, the trio starts tearing off their clothes. Even Mikono, who is usually shy, is compelled to do the same to boost her power level. Their power levels soar, allowing them to merge back into Aquarian. The more embarrassed they feel, the higher their power levels rise. Jin shoots at them, but they easily dodge his attack. He realizes too late that Aquarian has gotten close to him, and they deliver a powerful blow that destroys Jin's suit. After their victory, Mikono returns to his shy self. Zen informs the group that offense is the best defense, encouraging a more shameless fighting style. Later, Zessica manages to get a cute picture of Amata, which she keeps close to herself. On Vega, Izumo and his comrades are worried because they haven't heard from Jin. The machine he was operating was completely destroyed, but there is no evidence that he was killed inside it. Jin is very important to them, as he is the last son of Altair, and they cannot afford to lose him. Some of Jin's close friends are angry that they haven't been given permission to search for him, believing he is in trouble while the higher-ups do nothing. As they discuss this, Maikaj appears and uses his power to boost their determination to save Jin. The trio is willing to break the rules to rescue their friend. In the next scene, Andy wakes up to find that all the holes he dug have been filled in. This frustrates him, and he is convinced that a girl is responsible. Amada argues that it could be a boy instead. Meanwhile, Mikono is eating in the cafeteria when Jessica teases her about Amada. Mikono insists she has no romantic feelings for him, but Jessica suggests she should let Amada go, and Mikono doesn't respond. It seems Jessica is becoming quite interested in Amada. Elsewhere, the director is concerned that the darkness in Shrade's heart is worsening, and Cayenne worries that Shrade is not fit to fight in battles. Later, Andy and Amada start digging holes again. Amada asks Andy why he is always digging. Andy gives the same answer as before. He believes there are hidden worlds underground with their own cultures. However, he is really talking about the women's bathroom. Just then, the holes begin to fill up again, and they are pushed out, coming face to face with the person blocking the holes, none other than Mix. This revelation shocks Andy. He realizes that he and Mix are rivals, and that they have opposite powers. An argument breaks out between them, with Mix questioning why Andy is digging holes, and Andy wondering why Mix is filling them in. While they argue, Zen watches from a distance and starts to form an idea. He returns to the operations room to discuss the possibility of Mix and Andy being in the same group. Soon after, Andy and Mix are taken to the docking station. Zen wants them to pilot the vectors and potentially merge to form Aquarian, but the duo refuses the offer. During the training session, all they do is argue about who is right or wrong. The simulation ends up getting interrupted without any positive result. After the training, they are punished by being locked in a room where Mix is forced to dig holes, and Andy is ordered to fill them in. Andy teases Mix, asking why she hates men so much, and if she hates her father like that too. Mentioning her father changes Mix's mood, and she remains silent until they leave the room. Later, Mikono explains to Amada why Mix hates holes. Apparently, Mix's father was a reporter who left her for another woman, which must have left a significant emotional wound. This is why she hates holes. They remind her of the emptiness left in her heart that hasn't healed. The following day, abductors appear in Vega as usual. These are Jin's comrades searching for him. To combat the enemies, Zen orders Mikono, Mix, and Andy to work together. He wants them to learn how to cooperate as a team. Andy is excited about the possibility of merging with Mix, but she is not interested. She decides to go after the enemies alone, but Andy stops her, reminding her that she can't take them on by herself. He and Mikono try to convince her to let go of the emotional hole in her heart. Mix listens and attempts to merge with them, but it fails because she isn't fully committed, leading to a disastrous formation. In the process, Andy gets injured, and Amada quickly steps in to take his place. Although Andy is sent back to base, he still maintains a connection with Mix. Amada and Mikono pursue Mix and manage to convince her to merge with them. She agrees, and this is her first time doing so. As they merge, she feels an incredible sensation in her heart. It turns out that Mikono has the power to create connections between the elements. They successfully form a powerful Aquarian, and Mix uses her ability to fill the holes in the enemy's body armor. When they try to shoot at the enemy, their own weapons backfire and destroy them instead. Mix has filled all the holes in the armor, preventing their artillery from firing effectively. This marks a significant moment for Mix as she overcomes her fear of merging with a guy. After the battle, Mix and Andy continue to argue, which seems to be their way of connecting with each other. Meanwhile, Mikono and Amada share a romantic moment, but Zen interrupts them, reminding them that romance is not allowed at the academy. In the distance, Jessica watches the duo. The scene shifts to reveal that Jin is alive, observing the academy from afar. Soon after, Jin arrives at the academy and is introduced to the students as a new transfer from another academy. He is overwhelmed when he sees all the girls in the class, surprised by the number of rare iguras he can choose from. After his introduction, he is quickly surrounded by girls, and being new to this attention, he doesn't know how to respond or interact with them. Cayenne takes Jin on a tour of the school, showing him various locations, including a partially broken section of the Berlin Wall. Next, they visit the operations room, known as Neo Diava's hub room, where strategies and tactics for Aquarian are managed. Jin appears lost when Cayenne mentions Aquarian, as he doesn't realize that it refers to the mechanical suit they use in battles. Cayenne is surprised that Jin is unaware of what Aquarian is. During the tour, Amada arrives, and he and Cayenne begin their usual argument. Jin seizes the opportunity to sneak away from them and heads to the hangar where the weapons are stored. He quickly studies the room. The following day, Jin contacts Izumo to report on the situation. Izumo tells him to come back alive and to make sure he brings back a suitable Igura. Jin explains that humans use primitive technology compared to theirs, which is why he was able to easily hack into the Academy's system system and access their databank. He needs to find the strongest Kagura as quickly as possible and has a device with him that will help him accomplish this task with ease. In the next scene, Jin sees Andy and Mix arguing with each other, which surprises him. He doesn't understand why they are fighting over holes. Shortly after, Jin accidentally walks into the female restroom. The girls quickly surround him, ready to confront him, but Yunoha steps in and reminds them that he is new to the school and might have made a mistake because he doesn't know his way around yet. Thanks to Yunoha, Jin is saved and retreats to the male dorm, locking himself in his room. He ignores Andy and Amada, who are asking him if he is interested in digging holes. Next, Jin and Yunoha sit across from each other in class. Mikono and Amada soon join them. Yunoha talks about Jin, expressing her belief that he is in a similar situation to hers when she first arrived at the school. Back then, people tried to talk to her, but she was used to being alone. Eventually, people left her alone, and she vanished into darkness. She doesn't want Jin to end up like her, and hopes they will interact with him so he can feel more comfortable. Meanwhile, Schrade visits Cayenne and reveals that something has felt off for the past few days. He mentions hearing strange noises since the abductor they fought disappeared and wonders what is going on. Later, Jin is in the library when Yunoha runs into him. His device falls out, but he quickly picks it up and tries to hide it. Yunoha notices it before he can conceal it but doesn't press him for answers. Instead, she talks to him about the dangers of being alone, saying it's not good for him. As she speaks, tears begin to run down her cheeks, and she runs away in embarrassment. Yunoha's tears resonate with Jin, making an impact on him. Meanwhile, Cayenne is following Jin, suspecting that he might be the pilot of the giant abductor they fought. That night, Cayenne sits in his room and gathers data on the girls. He discovers that Yunoha has the power of transparency, remembering a battle where she made a machine disappear. He transfers all the data to Izumo and mentions Yunoha's tears, suggesting that they must have affected him deeply. Izumo advises Cayenne to grab Yunoha and take her with him if he is worried about her. Feeling determined, Cayenne stands up and tells Andy and Amada that he is ready to join them in digging holes. This news excites the two, and they quickly take Jin to a new hole they are digging. This hole is in a discreet location that Mix might have trouble finding, and it leads to the female dorm, which has been Jin's plan all along. Once they arrive at the dorm, Jin leaves Andy and Amada behind and heads toward Yunoha's room. He throws a stone at her window to get her attention. When Yunoha comes to the window, he expresses his desire to talk more. However, Yunoha feels shy and retreats back into her room. Not willing to give up, Jin climbs up to her window. Just then, Cayenne appears and fires a warning shot at Jin. Amada and Andy are shocked to see Cayenne aiming a gun at him. Jin manages to reach Yunoha's window, and she comes out when she hears the gunshot. Cayenne breaks free from Amada and Andy and fires at both Yunoha and Jin. In a moment of instinct, Jin subconsciously activates his power to create a barrier that blocks the blast. He is unaware that he possesses such powers. On Alter, Izumo leaves his chambers and heads to the cryo chamber. He stands in front of the pods, staring into Alicia's eyes. While he is there, Maikaj arrives. Izumo reprimands Maikaj for entering without permission, but Maikaj is unconcerned. He knows why Izumo is spending time in front of Alicia. Maikaj explains that after Altair lost all their women, they had to investigate Vega to keep their hopes alive. Izumo was one of those who went on the investigation. Alicia was one of the girls chosen to bring hope back to Altair. However, she fell into a deep sleep during the journey and has remained in that state ever since. Izumo has not allowed anyone to touch her. He also notes that Alicia left a son back in Vega. Maikaj wants to eliminate Alicia, seeing her as useless, but Izumo stops him, reminding him that no one is to touch her. Maikaj reluctantly agrees to back off. Izumo then tells Maikaj that Jin has infiltrated the nest of the mechanical angels, referring to Aquarian. There is hope that Jin will find someone useful for them. Afterward, Maikaj returns to his chambers, where Kagura is being held captive. Kagura struggles to break free but lacks the strength and willpower to do so. Maikaj begins to say hurtful things to Kagura about Mikono, urging him to break free if he truly cares. He wants Kagura's love to be reborn. Kagura becomes furious at Maikaj's words. In a fit of rage, he transforms into a beast and breaks free from his confinement. He charges at Maikaj, but Maikaj tells him to embark on a journey of love if he wants to satisfy his longing. In his beast form, Kagura ignores Maikaj and heads to the hangar, easily knocking out the guards to gain access. The alarm sounds immediately. Meanwhile, Maikaj reveals his true intentions. He is not looking for the true Igura, but aims to awaken the mechanical angel of Genesis that sleeps in Vega. Back on Vega, both Cayenne and Jin are locked up. Jin is imprisoned for sneaking into the female dorm, while Cayenne is locked up for pointing a gun at a classmate. Jin is the first to be released, while Cayenne remains in his cell, reflecting on his choices. As Jin leaves his cell, he runs into Yunoha, who is holding her stuffed animal as usual. Meanwhile, the director and the higher-ups discover that Jin is not who he claims to be. However, they decide not to take action because they need his power. As long as he possesses power, he remains a candidate for Neo Diava. On the other hand, Amada and his friends find Jin mysterious, but they don't think that makes him a bad person. Zesika indirectly kisses Amada when she takes his drink and uses the same straw. Back on Alter, Kagura successfully acquires his armor and tries to leave the planet. Izumo orders that the gate be closed to prevent his escape. Andy approaches Amada and teases him about Mikono, knowing that Amada has feelings for her. He advises Amada to act on his feelings before he loses her. Amada reminds Andy that romance is prohibited. Andy suggests that Amada can reserve Mikono until the war with the abductors is over, but he should express his feelings now before it's too late. Amada reflects on Andy's advice and realizes that he is speaking the truth. He remembers that Kagura is interested in Mikono, which could pose a problem for him. Determined to act quickly, Amada approaches Mikono without delay, thinking that the sooner he talks to her, the better. Back on Alter, Izumo tells Kagura that he cannot allow him to leave because he is acting irrationally. However, Kagura dismisses Izumo's concerns, insisting that he just wants to leave. He is prepared to destroy the city to achieve his goal. In response, Izumo is forced to send the military after him. He notices that Kagura's power has increased significantly and wonders where it came from. Meanwhile, Cage is secretly providing Kagura with the support and strength he needs from his chambers. Kagura suddenly realizes that the machines have pulled back from the battlefield. As he looks ahead, he sees powerful artillery set up to attack him. Strong projectiles are launched at him, trying to throw him off balance. On another planet, Zesika stands in front of a mirror, wondering why Amada doesn't like her the way he likes Mikono. While she is lost in thought, she gets a quick vision of Mikono and Kagura. Meanwhile, Amada takes Mikono to the riverside to discuss his feelings. He wants to ask her about her plans after the war is over. Back to Kagura's fight, he is bombarded with artillery fire and falls to the ground. The machines surround him, believing he has been defeated. Just then, Kagura regains his strength and blasts all the machines away. He powers up his armor, and his machine gains wings, allowing him to soar through the sky and cut down his enemies. With Maikage's assistance, the gate opens for Kagura, and he escapes from the planet. Jin is sitting alone, trying to eat a hot dog when two girls approach him. They insist on taking cute pictures of him. Although he feels shy, they make sure to get the photos they want. Elsewhere, Amada tells Andy that he hasn't been able to talk to Mikono about his feelings. Andy understands and offers to help. He suggests organizing an exciting event to bring them together since the Academy's anniversary is coming up the next day. Andy gives Amada a letter to invite Mikono. In class, Amada throws the note to Mikono, and she catches it. She discovers that it is an invitation to the boys' dorm. Zesika sees this, and Amada invites her as well. Andy wonders why Amada is inviting Zesika when he really needs time alone with Mikono. That night, Andy starts preparing their room for the event. While he is cleaning, Jin enters, and Andy suggests that he join them as a way to get used to being around girls. Moments later, Zesika and Mikono crawl through a hole to reach the boys' dorm. As they make their way through, they realize that Yunoha is following them. She asks to tag along. Meanwhile, Shrade and Cayenne are talking in the yard. Shrade notices that Cayenne is being cautious around Jin, which is why he ended up in detention. Just then, the girls emerge from the hole and run into Cayenne and Shrade. The girls head toward Andy and Amada's room, escorted by Cayenne and Shrade. The girls explain that they ran into the boys on their way. Andy quickly reassures the guys that they aren't planning anything unusual. They just want to have a fun time together in preparation for tomorrow's anniversary. Zesika has heard that boys keep irregular pictures under their beds, so she goes straight to search under Amada's bed. She finds a picture of the actress Sylphie, who is actually Alicia. Jin is surprised when he sees this, and everyone in the room recognizes Alicia as the actress from the popular movie Skies of Aquaria. Yunoha knows that Jin is a fan of Alicia, and asks him to show the group his device. Jin reluctantly takes out the device and shows them a video of Sylphie singing. The group decides to feature the movie at the anniversary event. The next morning, Andy starts distributing posters to raise awareness about the movie. Meanwhile, Jin retreats to a private spot to contact Alter, but he is unable to get through. While he is trying to make the call, Yunoha sees him. Jin chases after her, thinking she is listening to his conversation. In the process, he accidentally tears her teddy bear. With tears in her eyes, Yunoha leaves the teddy behind for Jin. Meanwhile, Amada and Mikono are busy setting up the projector they need for the event. This setup reminds them of the first time they met in the theater. During their conversation, Amada reveals that Alicia is his mother, which is why he has the picture. He explains that his mother left him when he was very young, and he feels like an unwanted child. Mikono corrects him, assuring him that he is not unwanted. Amada then asks Mikono if she will watch the movie with him, and she agrees. He becomes excited and starts to float. Zesika sees this, and feels her anger growing. Back in his room, Jin realizes he needs to apologize to Yunoha. He fixes the teddy bear and prepares to return it to her. Meanwhile, on Alter, Cage reveals that he plans to interfere with Jin's mission. Later, Amada finds Yunoha and returns the teddy bear to her, apologizing for tearing it. Yunoha reassures Jin that she wasn't spying on him, She understands that everyone has their secrets and is ready to respect that. She thanks Jin for fixing the teddy and reveals that its name is Tama. They agree to meet again that night for the movie. That night, Jin searches for his device but cannot find it. Unbeknownst to him, Maikage has used his powers to move the device. Meanwhile, Yunoha discovers the device where she and Jin are supposed to meet. She picks it up and hears Izumo trying to send a message to Jin. Izumo warns that Kagura will soon arrive, and he needs to take the girl away before Kagura gets there. When Jin appears, Yunoha quickly hides the device and pretends she doesn't have it. Shortly after, the movie begins, and everyone settles in to watch. As they enjoy the film, Amada and Mikono get closer, causing Amada to become excited and start floating. Suddenly, an alarm goes off, signaling the presence of abductors. Amada and Mikono run into Kagura, who has just arrived on the planet. They become frightened and fall onto a tree branch. Jin, worried about the situation, asks Yunoha to come with him. Kagura is searching through the base for Mikono, trying to smell the presence of all the girls around him to see if any of them are Mikono, but they aren't. Meanwhile, Yunoha tells Jin that she has his device with her. She reveals that she heard the message meant for him and shows him the device, which he grabs. Suddenly, there is an explosion nearby, and Yunoha passes out from fear. The authorities are evacuating the students to prevent casualties, but there are still 20 students missing. Mikono, Amada, and Zessica manage to reach the hangar, ready to move out with their vectors. The trio merges into Aquarian and goes after Kagura. When Kagura spots them, he smiles, having been searching for Mikono. The trio is surprised when Kagura calls Mikono Sylphie. He charges toward Aquarian, and they realize they have no way to stop him. It's clear that he is much more powerful than the last time they fought. He has improved his suit and is using more power. Zen explains that Kagura is using the power of reversal and appears to have elemental powers as well. On the other side, Jin has taken Yunoha to the hangar. She wakes up to see him preparing one of the vectors. Jin reveals that he intends to take Yunoha with him to his planet. However, Yunoha wants him to join them in battling Kagura, but he refuses, stating that he has his own mission to attend to. As soon as he activates the vector, those in the operation room receive an alert that one of the reserved vectors has been activated. The camera then reveals that the traitor is Jin. Cayenne is furious because he was right all along. He offers to go after Jin and stop him. Meanwhile, the battle between Aquarian and Kagura continues. The trio wonders why Kagura is so much stronger than before, and discovers that he is being powered by a strange aura. This aura is being transferred from an ethereal tube directly from Alter, and Maikage is the one helping Kagura through the dimensional gate. They realize that their only solution is to cut off the dimensional gate, which will stop the energy supply to Kagura. Suddenly, Maikage appears in the operations room, shocking everyone because of his teleportation abilities. It seems that Zen and Donar recognize Maikage. Back in the hangar, Yunoha tries to convince Jin not to betray their trust, but he brushes her off, stating that his mission is more important. He powers up the vector and prepares to leave the planet, arriving too late for Cayenne. In the operations room, Maikage attacks. Donar jumps in front of Suomi to protect her, but passes out in the process. This leaves Suomi, Kreia, and Zen to confront Maikage. Zen and Maikage begin to talk as if they have a history together. As Jin is about to pass through the dimensional gate, Yunoha tears up and pleads with him to reconsider his choices, reminding him that their friends need their help. At the same time, Kagura has defeated Aquarian and opens the hatch to take Mikono. He is still celebrating his victory when Amada regains consciousness. Amada activates the wings on his legs and quickly snatches Mikono away from Kagura. However, he doesn't get far before Kagura shoots him down, aiming to kill Amada since he sees no use for him. Meanwhile, in the operations room, Maikage confronts Zen and demands to know where the solar wings are. Just then, Donar regains consciousness and shoots Maikage with a blast gun, but Maikage easily blocks the attack. He decides to retreat for now. Kagura is about to eliminate Amada when Andy arrives and traps him in one of his holes. Amada and Mikono manage to reunite with Andy and Mix. Furious, Kagura breaks free from the hole, determined to eliminate them. However, the arrival of other vectors prevents him from doing so. The director immediately orders the elements to merge again. To everyone's surprise, Jin and Yunoha return, with Yunoha having convinced Jin to help out. Jin expresses his desire to merge with them as well. Maikage appears to Jin and decides he needs to be punished for his betrayal. He touches Jin's head, causing him to get injured. Despite this, Jin emerges from the attack unharmed and asks the elements to merge with him. They successfully merge, creating two Aquarian to battle Kagura. They manage to knock Kagura into a rock, but he retaliates with a powerful counterattack. The team realizes they need to cut off the dimensional gate to defeat Kagura, and Jin offers a solution. Jin activates his power, and all the other elements support him in creating a massive wave that destroys the gate. After successfully closing the gate, Kagura charges toward them, but Jin uses all his strength to protect his friends. Cayenne finishes off Kagura, leading to their victory. However, the injury on Jin's forehead worsens, and he becomes unresponsive. His device falls from his pocket and plays a recording of how much he likes Yunoha. After the battle, it is revealed that Jin didn't survive his injuries and has died. He, along with several others, are casualties of the fight. A funeral procession is held for the deceased, and they are laid to rest in the church, surrounded by flowers. Back on Alter, Izumo learns about Jin's death and blames Mike for it. Mike is also trying to stir up a rebellion in the city. He explains to Izumo that his actions were necessary to make life easier for them on Alter, which is already dying. They need to find a solution quickly, including bringing females to the planet to ensure the next generation. Izumo somewhat understands Maikage's perspective and asks for Jin's forgiveness, but he hopes that Jin will not forgive him or Alter for what they did. On Vega, the deceased are taken from the church to be transported to the cemetery. Yunoha has locked herself in a room since Jin's death and refuses to show herself. Mikono is worried about her but doesn't want to disturb her, wanting to give her space to grieve alone. Mikono is alone when Zen approaches him. Zen urges Mikono to reach out to Yunoha and try to get her out of isolation. Initially, Mikono refuses, believing Yunoha should grieve in her own way. However, he changes his mind when Zen warns him that Yunoha will lose herself if she continues this way, and may end up destroying herself without realizing it. Concerned about this, Mikono agrees to find Yunoha and bring her out of the house. Mikono makes his way to Yunoha's room, bringing food in an attempt to lift her spirits. Yunoha blames herself for not agreeing to follow Jin, believing that he would still be alive if she had. Mikono encourages Yunoha to come with him to pay her last respects to Jin. Although Yunoha is hesitant to leave her room, she eventually agrees to go with Mikono. Elsewhere, Amada is busy packing Jin's belongings when his device falls and displays an image of Sylphie. Amada wonders if his mother is currently on Alter. Shortly after, the students head to the cemetery. While they are on the boat, some students express their desire to quit the school. The recent events have negatively affected most of them, leaving them scared for their safety. Mix tries to convince them to stay, but Andy stops her, not wanting to change the students' minds against their will. Minutes later, they arrive at the cemetery, and the deceased are laid to rest. Just then, Zen tells Andy to dig multiple holes but doesn't explain their purpose. Kriya informs the students that they have learned about Alter's mission, which is to kidnap female elements for reproduction. Because of this, more battles are expected and more lives will be lost. To prepare for the upcoming battles, Zen tells the students they need to die first. He instructs them to get into the holes and bury themselves, claiming it is part of their training. Mikono and some students become angry, feeling that Zen is being insensitive, especially after just losing their comrades. Zen explains that this process is necessary to help them cut off their attachment to the living. Schrade is the first to comply, getting into one of the holes. Yunoha joins him, and before Mikono realizes it, all the students have jumped into the holes. The only ones left are Mikono and Amada. Mikono refuses to get into the hole, but Zen tells her she is free to do as she wishes. Then, using his super speed, he grabs Amada and throws him into the hole, sealing it immediately. Mikono is left alone on the surface with the school authorities. Moments later, some of the students ran out of the holes out of fear. Meanwhile, Mike has realized what Zen is trying to do. He is also burying Kagura alongside the students to make him powerful. Amada and his friends start to feel comfortable inside the holes. They are able to feel and connect through the silence. Mikono is worried about them and wants to dig them out, but soon finds out that her power connects them. Her friends are able to bloom like mushrooms because of her. Her friends are able to draw from her power and get the fear of death from their minds. Amata and the rest are reborn, and they burst out of their graves. Mikono faces Amada and greets him with a happy birthday. They were still celebrating their win when Kagura burst out of one of the holes. They had no idea that he was also being buried in the same cemetery as them. Zen notices the killer intent on Kagura's face and quickly gets Kreia out of the area. He leaves the students to face Kagura, wanting to see how far they have come with their new abilities. Dorn tells the girls to leave since Kagura is targeting them. He draws his sword and charges at Kagura, but Kagura uses an energy blast to destroy the sword and throw Donar off balance. Andy joins the fight, creating holes under Kagura, causing him to fall in. Mix fills the holes, and they believe this will be enough to stop Kagura. However, he shocks them by bursting out of the holes. He grabs Mix but throws her aside, stating she is not the one he wants. He is after Mikono, who wonders why he is chasing her. Amada urges his friends to get Mikono out of there before Kagura can grab her. Two students quickly grab Mikono and take her away to keep her safe. Cayenne charges at Kagura but is easily knocked down. Amada tries to fight as well, but Kagura proves too strong for them. He cuts through them and transforms into a beast to chase after the car carrying Mikono. Schrade steps in and uses his sound abilities to inflict pain on Kagura, pinning him down temporarily. However, Kagura manages to break free and continues his pursuit. Kagura soon catches up to the car and uses his reversal skill to change its gear from drive to reverse. The car crashes into a tree, and Kagura seizes the opportunity to grab Mikono before anyone can stop him. He takes her to a tower where he hides her. A search for Mikono begins, and resources are mobilized for the effort. Donar, Andy, Yunoha, and Mix are in a helicopter searching for her, while the rest of the team continues the search on the ground. Mikono wakes up at the top of a tower, where Kagura is standing guard to ensure the helicopter light doesn't spot them. He covers her mouth with his hand when the helicopter gets close, trying to prevent her from making noise or calling attention to herself. Kagura attempts to contact Cage to inform him that he has secured the package, but he receives no response. He believes Cage is just not hearing him, unaware that Cage is choosing to ignore him. Meanwhile, Jessica tells Amada not to worry too much about Mikono, assuring him that Kagura won't hurt her. When Amada asks why she is so certain, Jessica reveals that Kagura is Mikono's man of destiny. Back in the tower, Kagura assures Mikono that he won't harm her. He even licks her wound and calls her Sylphie. Mikono realizes that this isn't the first time Kagura has referred to her as Sylphie. He then begins to tell her a story, while Jessica narrates the same story to Amada. The story explains that the Tree of Life was withering and needed saving. To help it, two lovers agreed to separate, promising to find each other again no matter how far apart they were. These two lovers are Apollon and Sylphie. It is revealed that Kagura sees himself as Sylphie and recognizes Sylphie's image in Mikono. This is the reason he has been chasing her. Jessica hopes that Kagura is truly Mikono's destiny, as this would give her a chance with Amada. Suddenly, they hear a loud bang coming from the tower, leading them to deduce that Kagura is hiding there. They rush over to the tower, and Amada tries to reach Mikono but is stopped by Kagura. Kagura knocks Amada to the ground and comes after him. Amada tells Jessica to contact Cayenne and inform him of their location. He wants to distract Kagura so that Mikono can be rescued more easily. Amada runs away, and Kagura, filled with rage, chases after him. Meanwhile, the helicopter soon locates Mikono, who is hanging on. Kagura catches up to Amada and starts to beat him up. Amada tries to fight back, but he is no match for Kagura's strength. Kagura punches him against the wall, causing Amada to pass out. While unconscious, Amada reflects on the darkness and his connection to it. Since he has already been reborn in darkness, he manages to find a way out. Amada discovers a new source of power and begins to levitate. Kagura attempts to blast him away, but an energy shield forms around Amada, stopping the attack. As Kagura prepares another attack, Cayenne suddenly appears and shoots him from behind. Kagura manages to throw Cayenne off balance, causing the gun to fall near Amada. Cayenne urges Amada to finish Kagura off. Amada picks up the gun and is about to shoot Kagura when Mikono arrives and stops him, pleading with Amada not to end Kagura's life. Suddenly, flower petals appear and envelop Kagura, who then floats away with the petals. After Kagura escapes, Kreia calls Mikono to her office. As a punishment, she bans Mikono from leaving her dorm. This is not her official punishment, but Mikono must serve this time until Kreia decides on a more formal consequence for allowing Kagura to slip away. After leaving the office, Mikono runs into Yunoha, who assures her that she is there to support her no matter what situation she finds herself in. Mikono expresses her confusion about her actions and admits there are things she still doesn't understand regarding the situation. Meanwhile, Andy and Amada are secretly listening to their conversation through a hidden hole, hearing everything they say. The two guys return to their dorm to discuss what they overheard. Amada wonders if their fate was truly decided 12,000 years ago, and if they are really connected. Andy suggests that there is a possibility of that connection. He mentions that he is connected to Mix through holes, and that Amada needs to find his own connection to Mikono. Andy proposes that the duo might be linked through Shushu, Mikono's pet. To get closer to Mikono, Amada needs to win over Shushu. Amada heads to the grocery store to buy things he thinks Shushu will like. Jessica sees him leaving the store and worries about what she told him earlier. She feels like taking back her words, but Mix reassures her that there is no need to do so. Meanwhile, back on Altair, the city known as the Iron Sea is starting to experience problems. The power output has decreased, causing Izumo to worry. He reveals that the city was created by his mother, Ariza, and he needs to find a solution to the issue. In the next scene, Zen reveals his plan to take the elements through real combat training. They will train as if they are on the battlefield to prepare for the upcoming battles. He has already set up combinations for the training, with Cayenne, Bianca, and Malloy fighting against Amada, Jessica, and Mikono. Soon after, the elements and their vectors arrive at the battleground. They merge to become Aquarian. Zen tells them they are free to use their elemental powers against each other and should treat each other like enemies. It will be Team Amada versus Team Cayenne. Cayenne wants to test if Amada can protect his sister, so he is the first to attack. Team Cayenne takes the offensive while Team Amada remains on the defensive. Cayenne and his team aggressively attack Team Amada. Amada struggles to fight back, as their elemental powers have been boosted from their training, but only Team Cayenne is effectively using that boost. Team Amada feels like sitting ducks, unable to respond to Cayenne's relentless attacks. Cayenne's Aquarian is designed for long-distance battles, giving them an advantage. Additionally, Cayenne has gained the ability to see 3 seconds into the future, allowing him to predict the opponent's movements and tactics clearly. During the battle, Amada needs some motivation to help them out of their predicament. Zessica decides to confess her feelings to Amada. She gets close to him but struggles to find the words. Just then, an attack is imminent, and their suit manages to dodge it. In the midst of this, Zessica tells Amada that she loves him. However, Amada cannot hear her because of the explosion. He asks Zessica what she was trying to say, but she is too shy to repeat it. Zessica realizes that this might be her only chance, so she holds Amada's head and boldly tells him that she loves him. Her words echo throughout the area, leaving everyone in the operations room stunned. At that moment, Amada's Aquarian begins to move on its own, having reached a new level of evolution due to love. The Aquarian Evo unleashes a powerful Mugen punch that astonishes everyone. The Mugen punch creates a series of images. They see another Aquarian that doesn't belong to them, along with 2 men battling each other, one of whom resembles Zen. Mikono recognizes the other person but cannot recall where she knows him from. It turns out that the images are from 12,000 years ago, featuring Sylvia, not Sylphie. The punch causes a massive explosion that disrupts the video connection, and there is a risk that the entire island could be destroyed. When the dust settles, they discover that both Aquarians are okay, but the entire island has been devastated. The team wonders what kind of power they have just unlocked with this forbidden love. Zessica realizes that her confession of love triggered this sudden surge of power that nearly killed everyone. After returning to the academy, Amada tries to talk to Zessica about her confession, but she finds it difficult to discuss. Zessica tells him that he doesn't need to stress over it. She understands him and isn't putting any pressure on him. As she walks away, Amada tries to pull her back. Just then, Mikono sees them, and Amada quickly releases Zessica's hand. Feeling jealous, Mikono runs away. Amada attempts to follow her, but Shushu jumps onto his face and scratches him to stop him. Later that day, Mikono finds Zessica, who is lost in thought about her choices. Zessica decides not to talk about the events of the day. Meanwhile, Mix is frustrated that some of them are still thinking about romance when they have battles to prepare for. Amada is receiving lectures about romance from his friends in the dorm. Suddenly, Amada and the others are summoned by Zen and Kreia for an emergency meeting. Zen informs the team that he is sending them on a top-secret mission. The details, location, and contents of the mission are all classified, so they won't be able to ask any questions. The vectors have been programmed to take them to the mission site, and are stocked with supplies to make their mission easier. The next day, the students begin their journey to an unknown location, with Sumoi being the only adult accompanying them. She is also unaware of the mission's details, which only Kreia and Zen know. Amada suspects that they are being sent to uncover the mythic Aquarian, while Mikono wonders if it will be dangerous to dig it out. Meanwhile, Cage is monitoring the situation and believes that Zen is making the first move. Soon, they arrive at an island that appears to be their destination. Upon arrival, the commander tells them they are free to do as they please while they wait for further instructions. Kreia informs the students that there are swimsuits inside the vectors for them to use. The girls are the first to put on the swimsuits, and Mix stands out the most due to her figure. Even though she is wearing the most modest swimsuit, she remains the most eye-catching. A little later, the boys sit down to fish, while Mix and the other girls play nearby. Mix is playing with bananas when she accidentally hits Andy in the head. She takes him to the ship to treat his injury. After she finishes, Andy stops her from leaving, wanting to confess his love for Mix, but struggling to find the courage to do so. Meanwhile, Zessica has secluded herself from the rest of the team, enjoying some peace and quiet when Mikono finds her. The two decide to stay together. Back on the ship, Andy keeps stuttering, and eventually blurts out that he wants to fill Mix's hole. He meant to say he wanted to fill the hole in her heart, but ended up saying the wrong thing. Mix gets angry and punches him in the head before storming off the ship, leaving him behind. Mikono and Zessica are discussing what the boys might want when the weather suddenly changes. Meanwhile, Andy is inside the ship, feeling sad about his rejection. He feels like he wants to bury himself in a hole and starts digging where he is sitting, not realizing how deep he is going. Outside the ship, a dimensional gate opens, and an abductor emerges. Cayenne, Malloy, and Amada quickly put on their Aquarian to fight the abductor. Mix and the other girls take refuge in the hole that Andy is digging. He continues to dig without a specific goal, completely unaware that he has created a very deep hole. Soon he breaks through to a cave containing an unknown object. Suddenly, Andy and everyone in the hole are ejected back to the surface. They find themselves inside the vector, now fully assembled with all the students present, ready to work together against the abductor. The weather grows colder by the minute as they charge toward the abductor with their combined power and deliver a powerful Mugen punch, destroying the abductor and securing victory. Back on Altair, Cage realizes that some of the components he needs are on the island, but the main component of the solar wing has not yet been found. Upon returning to the academy, Zessica appears in a new outfit that doesn't expose her belly. Her friends are surprised by her change in style. Zessica approaches Mikono and tells her that she doesn't mind having a one-sided love for Amada. She knows that Amada doesn't feel the same way about her, but she is not ready to stop loving him. Next, Kreia learns that Zen has left the academy. He left a note saying he was going in search of the mythic Aquarian. Kreia wonders if Zen found some clue that led him to make this decision. Meanwhile, Andy is still feeling depressed about his situation with Mix. He is digging holes around the academy due to his unstable emotions. His friends don't know what's wrong with him, but Mix does. She feels guilty and can't tell anyone about it yet. Later, Jessica receives an invitation from one of the guys asking her out on a date. She considers the offer because she wants to move on from Amada's rejection and do things to distract herself. In the yard, Mikono receives a letter from her father. When she sees Amada running toward her, she quickly hides the letter, but soon realizes there's no need to hide it. There's nothing she can't discuss with Amada. Mikono tells Amada that the letter is from her father, but she hasn't read it yet. She explains that she and her father were never close because she didn't have elemental powers, and he was only close to Cayenne. So, it's surprising for her to receive a letter from him. Amada shares that he doesn't know much about his father, but has some memories of his mother. Later that night, Mikono reads the letter, but then decides to take it to her brother. She tells him that the letter is meant for him and apologizes for opening it, but she doesn't mention that she has already read its contents. As she leaves her brother, Mikono thinks about what the letter said. It turns out that their father wrote to Cayenne to ask if Mikono is a burden to him at the academy. He is ready to take Mikono away if Cayenne feels that she is a burden. Mikono is lost in thought when Mix finds her. Mix reveals that she is the reason Andy is feeling depressed. She explains what happened during their trip and blames herself for always talking about people's feelings without considering the consequences. The two girls end their conversation by discussing their fathers, agreeing that only men truly understand themselves better. Meanwhile, Sumoi sees Jessica coming out of one of the vector machines, surprised to learn that she has just finished training. Afterward, Jessica goes to the bathroom, sits in the tub, and reflects on her decisions. On Altair, the power and production levels have seriously decreased. They will need to stop their trips to Vega if they want to continue providing the citizens with their basic needs. Izumo realizes that the planet is nearing a crisis, and that they are in desperate times. Additionally, Kagura is still missing, and Izumo suspects that Maikage is behind everything that is happening. He believes Maikage doesn't care about the planet. To find a solution, Izumo decides to go to Vega himself to try to acquire the rare Igura. He instructs his men to prepare his royal armor, the Afura Gneiss. Before leaving, Izumo visits the pod station to check on Alicia, hoping to find her son while he is in Vega. Back in Vega, Cayenne calls Mikono to let her know that he is aware she has read the letter from their father. He reassures her that he doesn't see her as a burden, and is glad that Amada was the first to recognize how much she has changed. Cayenne is eager to share this news with their father. Moments later, Izumo and 3 other abductors arrive on Vega. Neo Diava notices that this abductor looks very different from the ones they have seen before. Its armor is majestic and bold. Andy tries to get into the Vector, but he is not allowed to operate it in his depressed state, and is automatically sidelined. The rest of the elements are on standby, ready to engage Izumo and his men. Donar sends Amada, Jessica, Mix, Cayenne, and Malloy to confront the enemy. As Jessica, Amada, and Malloy merge, Amada starts to sense what Jessica is feeling. Jessica begins to act irrationally and recklessly, charging at Izumo without a proper plan. Izumo easily deflects her attacks and counters with more dangerous ones. As the battle heats up, Malloy gets knocked out due to Jessica's recklessness, and Cayenne takes Malloy's place after he passes out. Amada continues to attack Izumo, but Izumo dodges his strikes and manages to hack into Neo Diava's communications. He announces that he is Altair's supreme leader and explains the purpose of his visit. He reveals that he has no ill intentions toward their planet, but they need women to ensure the continuation of life on Altair. Upon hearing this, Jessica immediately flies toward the gate, ready to offer herself up. Her friends try to stop her, leading to another battle. During the fight, Amada transforms his Vector, and Izumo realizes that he is Alicia's son. Amada also sees an image of his mother appear. Izumo concludes that Maikage is the one manipulating the situation. While Mix is trying to reach Jessica, one of the abductors hits her hard, causing her to pass out. Instead of abducting Jessica, Izumo and the other abductors successfully capture Mix. Andy screams out in pain when he sees this happen. Upon returning to the academy, Andy grabs Amada and punches him in the face, demanding to know why he didn't save Mix. Cayenne intervenes, stopping Andy from going any further. He reminds Andy that Mix was trying to save Jessica when she got kidnapped. Feeling guilt-ridden, Jessica runs away. In the operations room, Kreia and Donar are left wondering where Zen is when they need him the most. The dimensional gate is completely shut, making it impossible to access Altair. Kreia reassures them that Zen can see everything happening and might be looking for a solution. A week has passed since Mix was abducted, and Andy's condition is worsening. He refuses to leave the hole he dug. Amada and Yunoha try to bring him food, but he rejects it. Yunoha worries about what they can do to help Andy, not wanting him to experience the pain of losing a loved one like she did. Meanwhile, Jessica has also locked herself in her room, moping since that day. While she is alone, The mirror in front of her suddenly falls and shatters. Cage emerges from the broken pieces and tells Jessica not to be afraid. He understands the pain of being rejected by someone you love and offers to help her. He promises to open the dimensional gate, but in return, Jessica must do something for him. He approaches her and leaves a purple mark on her forehead before disappearing. The next day, Mikono tells Amada that she is leaving to find Zen on her own. The commander once told her that her power connects people, and she wants to use that power. Amada tries to convince her not to go, but Mikono is determined and won't be stopped. She mentions that there is something she wants to tell him, but she wants to wait until she returns. Mikono boards a boat and leaves immediately, determined to save Mix. She also blames herself for not revealing her true feelings, which has contributed to the conflict between Amada and Jessica. She admits to Yunoha that she has feelings for Amada. Suddenly, the dimensional gate opens again. Andy sees this and rushes to the operations room, demanding that the director send them to Alter immediately. However, the director is hesitant, warning that it might be a trap since no abductors are passing through the gate. While they are arguing, Kreia receives a message from the Supreme Commander, Zen. He assures them that the gate is not a trap and instructs them to send in the elements. With Zen's assurance, Kreia quickly gives the order. The elements board their vectors and prepare to leave. Just then, Schrade knocks out Cayenne and takes over his vector, heading to Alter instead of him. The elements move out and enter the dimensional gate to access Alter. Upon arriving on Alter, an alarm sounds, indicating that the gate has been opened. Izumo realizes that only Cage could have done this, and feels disappointed because Cage knows about the city's power situation. Their power level has dropped to 40% due to the gate he opened. The military does not detect anything coming through the gate and assumes it is a malfunction. Unbeknownst to them, Amada and his team are entering the city. Yunoha is using her powers to make them invincible. They find an opening in the city and dock their vectors there. Yunoha enhances the vector's defenses, informing them that the effect will only last for half a day. They need to rescue Mix before that time runs out. Although Yunoha is already exhausted, she refuses to stay in the vector and insists on following them to explore the world where Jin came from. The team soon arrives at an industrial area of the town. While trying to find their way, they encounter some men who mistake the girls for fakes. When one of the men touches Jessica's bangs, she punches him in the head. Realizing they need to change their outfits to blend in with the citizens, they acquire some clothes and continue their journey to save Mick. As they move through the planet, they notice that there are only men around. It dawns on them why Alter has been kidnapping girls. Yunoha and Jessica also notice that their breathing has changed since arriving on the planet, but they don't understand why. Looking up, they spot the enemy's headquarters and assume that Mix is being held there. Their target is now the tower. They infiltrate the building, but the security system detects them, and the alarm goes off. Amada and the team encounter 3 individuals wearing helmets. They manage to capture one of them to guide them around the building. However, they soon find themselves pinned down by gunmen. Schrade tells Amada and Andy to escape, while the rest of the team holds off the enemies. The masked person with Andy and Amada suffers a minor gunshot wound while they are fleeing. Andy tears off his shirt to clean the wound and stop the bleeding before they continue. They reach the elevator that will take them to the top of the tower, but the masked guy refuses to enter the codes. Andy, desperate to save Mix, threatens him. The boy remains uncooperative and even destroys the elevator door. The guards pin them down again, but Andy creates an opening for Amada to escape through, urging him to save Mix. Amada uses his powers to fly through the building and soon reaches the top. Izumo sees him flying and recognizes him as the winged boy. Amada arrives at the pod station and is shocked to see his mother in one of the pods. Meanwhile, Andy is captured by the guards. As he is being taken away, he removes his mask, but the camera doesn't reveal his face. As he takes off the helmet, his hair falls down like a woman's, and he mutters the word, Mix. Just then, the hole that Andy created earlier closes up. Amada is emotionally hurt and wonders what his mother is doing inside the pod. He wants to know why she left him behind. Flying closer to the pod for a better look, he is soon surrounded by guards who find him in the room. Just as they are about to fire on him, Izumo enters and tells the guards to leave, instructing them not to return until further notice. Although the guards are hesitant to leave their leader alone with Amada, they have no choice but to follow orders. Izumo then tells Amada that he is ready to explain everything he needs to know, including the curse of Eve that was placed on Alter. Meanwhile, Yunoha, Jessica, and Schrade have returned to where the vectors are parked. While the girls discuss the differences between their planet and Alter, Schrade wanders off. They wonder why there are metal plates covering the city, allowing only a small portion of the sky to be seen, and they continue to struggle with their breathing. Schrade, on the other hand, is enjoying a stroll through the area, commenting that the planet is just like him. Andy is locked in a cell, but feels confident that he can break out. Back in Vega, Mikono is still on her quest to find Zen. She travels from town to town in search of the Supreme Commander, and eventually encounters him in a harbor town. Zen laughs at Mikono, and reveals that he has been following her since the beginning. He tells her how he has tracked her through the market, the streetcar, and all the places she has visited in town. Zen explains that his body will not change, and his soul will remain constant for eternity. His words resonate deeply with Mikono, and she wants to respond, but Zen stops her. Zen tells Mikono that he is ready to share the whole story about how everything began 24,000 years ago. Meanwhile, on Altair, Izumo is explaining the meaning of the curse to Amada. He reveals that the women on Altair died out 14 years ago, and Jin was the last person born before all the women perished. This is why they have been coming to Vega to hunt for women. Amada becomes angry, feeling that Altair is selfish, and tries to attack Izumo, but Izumo easily dodges the attack. He tells Amada to calm down, assuring him that he is willing to share everything he needs to know. In Andy's cell, he is already making his move. He creates a hole in his handcuff and breaks it off. Then, he makes a hole in the ground and falls to the next level. There, he encounters a guard, and they end up wrestling. Andy wins the fight by pushing the guard into a wall, knocking him out. However, before he knows it, multiple guards are on him, and he makes a run for it, searching for Mix. Back with Zen, he continues his story with Mikono, but everything he says is in riddles, leaving Mikono confused. She interrupts him, stating that they are going to find the mythic Aquarian at the end of their journey. While Andy fights through the guards, he overhears their radio, learning that Amada is in Alicia's room with Izumo. Izumo informs Amada that all the women brought from Vega were also affected by the curse. This is why they have been searching for a rare woman who can come to Altair without being affected by the curse. They found Alicia, who seems strong, but unfortunately, she wasn't the true Eve. Amada demands to know what happened to the women who were brought to Altair from Vega. Suddenly, the security system picks up a signal, but nothing appears on their screens. Out of nowhere, Aquarian reveals itself, having been in hiding due to Yunoha's power. The team wants to leave the planet quickly because Jessica and Yunoha are getting worse. They manage to reach Andy, and he reunites with the team, informing them of Amada's location so they can go get him. Izumo is still explaining things to Amada when Aquarian bursts into the room. Just as Izumo is about to tell Amada who his father is, the guards arrive and start shooting at him. Izumo is forced to flee and reunite with his team as they make their way to the exit point, needing to leave before the girls' conditions worsen. Suddenly, the machine's thrusters start filling up, and the holes above them also close up. Amada realizes that only one person has that kind of power, Mix. He then shares with the team what Izumo revealed to him. Apparently, all the girls brought to Altair from Vega have changed into men both mentally and physically, which is the karma of Altair. Andy figures out that the person who was wearing a helmet earlier is Mix, who is transformed into a man, and that Altair's military has tampered with her memories. Andy's powers begin to spiral out of control due to his emotional state, and he creates a black hole. However, Schrade manages to contain it and uses it as an arrowhead. He shoots the black hole through the wall, creating an opening to the dimensional gate for their escape. Although Schrade feels exhausted from this effort, they successfully escape the planet before being captured. As they leave, Mix looks at them and says her name is not Mix, but Mixie. Meanwhile, My Cage is monitoring the entire situation, calmly sitting in his chambers and waiting for the right moment to act. The team returns to Vega and shares what they learned in Altair. Amada explains that the Mix they encountered is not the same Mix they know. Yunoha and Jessica undergo medical checks to ensure they are okay, and the tests come back clear, so they have nothing to worry about. However, Andy is determined not to give up. He wants to return to Altair as soon as possible to save Mix. Unfortunately, his powers remain unstable, causing him to create holes even when he doesn't intend to. Schrade has received medical care and is now resting. He plans to create the perfect tune before he dies, and wants Cayenne to be with him when he plays it. Meanwhile, Jessica is in her room, trying to sleep when Maikage's voice echoes through the space. He reminds her that she still has a promise to fulfill. Jessica doesn't recall what she promised, but Maikage assures her that she will remember when the time comes. Later, Amada finds Andy sitting in the yard. Andy explains that the only place he can sit comfortably is above the holes that Mix filled because he cannot create new holes there. This means he doesn't have to worry about his powers going out of control while sitting on the filled holes. That night, Amada experiences a nightmare where he fuses with Kagura while trying to hurt Mikono. He wakes up scared from the dream. Meanwhile, Mikono and Zen are still on their journey to find the mythic Aquarian. Zen decides to tell Mikono a story she has never heard before. Zen reveals that shortly after heaven and earth separated, a battle broke out between angels and humans. An angel named Apollonius, known as the Massacring Angel, fell in love with a human girl named Selene during the fight. Because of his love for Selene, Apollonius betrayed his kind and fought alongside the humans, abandoning his wings to operate a mechanical angel. Zen explains that this story goes back 24,000 years and warns Mikono that the same cycle is about to repeat itself. Meanwhile, Amada heads to the docking station and grabs one of the vectors. Kreia orders him to stop, but he refuses, believing that Mikono needs his help. He flies off in search of her, determined not to lose someone he loves again. Shortly after, the director sends Cayenne and Jessica after him. Since Amada's vector has its location turned off, they cannot track it. Cayenne is forced to use his prediction power to figure out where Amada is headed so they can catch up. The next day, Amada arrives in the town where he first met Mikono. He finds the entire town in ruins and wonders what happened during his absence. Meanwhile, Zen and Mikono reach a cave. Shortly after, Jessica and Cayenne arrive at the town, spotting Amada's vector, but finding no sign of him. They are left to search for him. Amada makes his way to the theater where he used to work and live. He enters the room he once stayed in and discovers many pictures on the wall, all of them featuring Alicia. Amada realizes he did not put them there and wonders who might have done it. Meanwhile, Kagura is also in the town. As he walks around, he steps on a picture. Picking it up, he sees it's a photo of Alicia holding Amada in her arms. This picture triggers Kagura's long-lost memories. At the same time, Jessica is searching for Amada in the town. The two soon encounter each other inside the theater. Jessica explains that the director sent her and Cayenne to bring him back. She tells Amada that everyone in the town has been evacuated, and he realizes this is why the town is empty. Jessica asks if he and Mikono met in the theater, and he confirms they did. Just as she is about to ask another question, an abductor arrives, seemingly under Mai Cage's command. The abductor chases them through the town. Amada nearly gets caught under some rubble, but Jessica saves him, only to fall under the rubble herself. She urges Amada to leave her and escape, but he refuses. Jessica pulls him close, confesses her love for him, and kisses him, which activates Amada's floating ability. He floats away as Jessica cries. The abductor attacks her, and a large piece of rubble falls on her. Just then, the abductor goes after Amada, but Cayenne arrives just in time to intercept the attack. This gives Amada a chance to continue running to safety. Shrade and Bianca soon join Cayenne to help. Cayenne is surprised to see Shrade, who is supposed to be resting. Shrade tells Cayenne that he is ready to play his final tune, and that he shouldn't worry about him. The vectors merge together to form Aquarian and engage in battle against the abductor. Amada suddenly runs into Kagura, who throws the picture he found at him. Meanwhile, Mikono and Zen are observing the scene from what seems to be an opening in space. Zen announces that the solar wing is about to be awakened. Kagura confronts Amada and reveals that Amada is his other half. The battle between Aquarian and the abductor continues. Kreia and Donar are concerned about Shrade, who has not put on an elemental suit. This decision is meant to help his powers resonate better with the machine, but it is taking a heavy toll on him. Despite the strain, Shrade doesn't care about his suffering. He just wants to feel the melody of the world. Kagura tells Amada that they were originally the same person, but they split into two when their mother left for Altair. He explains that he is the dark version of Amada, ready to follow their mother, while Amada is the fearful one, seen as wimpy. Kagura shares that he followed their mother into the gate but lost her during the process. He ended up on Altair, where the first person he encountered was Mai Cage. Mai Cage took him in, erased his memories, and gave him the new name of Kagura. He no longer cares about their mother or the father they know nothing about. What matters most to Kagura now is Mikono, whom he calls Sylphie. Amada declares that he will not let Kagura harm Mikono and charges towards him, but Kagura effortlessly knocks him against the wall. Watching from the cave, Mikono screams that she doesn't want them to fight. At that moment, the solar wings awaken in the cave. The ground above opens, throwing Mikono out just before the whole cave collapses. As the ground bursts open, a rusty old machine emerges, resonating with Aquarian. Mikono lands on the roof, and both Amada and Kagura see her and call out to her. Kagura then reveals his intention to kill Mikono, which reignites the fight between him and Amada. Meanwhile, those in the operations room watch everything unfold and realize without a doubt that the old rusty machine is the mythic Aquarian, long thought to be lost. Suddenly, Zen reappears in the operations room, shocking everyone. Kagura continues to beat up Amada, and when Mikono shouts at him to stop, it only brings Kagura more joy to keep hurting Amada. At that moment, Jessica opens her eyes to find herself in a strange dimension. She thinks she might be dead, but Mai Cage appears and tells her he isn't ready to let her die until she fulfills her promises. He snaps Jessica back to life, and she opens her eyes to see that she is still alive. Looking into the distance, she sees Amada and Kagura fighting over Mikono. Kagura claims that fate has destined him and Mikono to be together. Amada counters that Kagura only wants Mikono because of fate, while he wants her because he genuinely cares for her. He doesn't mind that Mikono is the reincarnation of Sylphie from 12,000 years ago. To him, she is a completely different person. This is why he is willing to fight for Mikono with all his strength. Kagura pushes Amada toward an opening below, but Amada's wings activate, allowing him to fly out. Meanwhile, the battle between Aquarian Spada and the abductor continues. Shrade is feeling very weak from the fight and starts coughing up red liquid. Kreia, worried about him, orders an element change. Yunoha quickly replaces Shrade before anything worse can happen. Amada flies toward Mikono, intending to take her away from the chaos, but Kagura holds him back with his power. Back in the operations room, Kreia confronts Zen, asking if he plans to stop what is happening. Zen responds to her with one of his usual riddles. As the battle rages on, the mythic Aquarian sheds its rustiness to reveal shining armor. Just then, the abductor knocks Aquarian Spada to the ground and grabs the mythic Aquarian, flying into the dimensional gate. Kagura grabs Mikono and enters his armor, flying into the dimensional gate with her. Schrade approaches Kreia, pleading for one more chance to use his strength. He reminds her that she must have known a day like this would come when she scouted him. Kreia kisses Schrade's hands and gives him permission to do what he wants. Amada jumps into his vector machine and follows Kagura into the dimensional gate, with Schrade doing the same. Zessica appears behind them, and Amada is surprised to see that she is still alive. With 3 vector machines, the trio merges to become Aquarian Spada. As they merge, a battle begins while traveling through the dimensional gate. Schrade boosts Aquarian's power, allowing it to cut the abductor in 2. The explosion causes Aquarian to split back into the individual vector machines, leaving Schrade completely weak from using so much of his power. Meanwhile, those on Altair are prepared for their arrival. Izumo orders the military to stay on standby, as they cannot allow Kagura to keep Mikono all to himself. Back on Vega, Zen informs everyone that the awakening of the mythic Aquarian has disrupted the balance that existed between Altair and Vega. The world is heading toward impending doom, but Zen reassures Kreia that the mythic Aquarian will not activate unless there is a chosen element. Schrade realizes that they won't make it through the gate unless they merge. Even though he is in no condition to do so, he knows he must for the sake of his friends. They merge and become Aquarian, giving them a chance to make it through the dimensional gate. Back in Vega, Kreia has gathered everyone together to share something important. Zen informs them that he is about to tell the myth that has been passed down for 24,000 years. He lifts his eye patch to reveal that he has always had the Book of the Twin Stars with him. The team finds themselves inside a giant book, ready for Kreia to narrate the story and how it unfolds. Schrade, Zessica, and Amada will also be able to see and hear everything as Kreia tells the tale. The first chapter takes place 24,000 years ago, when the angel Apollonius fell in love with the human Selene. Apollonius used the mechanical angel, the mythic Aquarian, to protect mankind and drive away the angels. The shadow angel, Toma, who was Apollonius's fiancée, harbored feelings of both hatred and love for him because of his betrayal. Another being, the winged dog Pollen, also fell in love with Selene. However, Pollen knows that Selene will never love him back because he is a dog. He wishes to be reincarnated as a human when he returns to the world. This chapter ends with Toma's hatred and Pollen's love. The second chapter begins 12,000 years ago, when people fought against the angels using the mechanical angel and the knowledge that had been passed down to them. The person who operated the mechanical angel at that time was a young man named Apollo. Meanwhile, Kagura has arrived in Altair, but is met with heavy resistance from the military. Continuing with the story, Apollo is the reincarnation of the winged dog Pollen, and his lover Selene has also been reincarnated as Sylvia. Through fate, they meet again. However, Toma has also been reincarnated in this era, and he aims to destroy everything that Apollonius built. Toma's hatred has led to the destruction of the Shadow Angels. The Tree of Life, which was planted to revive the Shadow Angels, failed completely and bore no fruit. To save the world, Apollo had to say goodbye to Sylvia, the love he had waited thousands of years for, which vanished in an instant. His sacrifice marked the beginning of a new world. Now, it is time for the third chapter of the story. This chapter focuses on the present day and the events currently unfolding. When the Tree of Life died, it disrupted the balance of the world, causing the Earth to split into 2. These 2 pieces are now known as Vega and Altair, which were originally one land. In this era, Pollen has been reincarnated as Alicia's child. However, someone else was reincarnated before him and retains all his memories. This person is Toma, who still seeks revenge. He used his power to split the reincarnation of Pollen, who is Amada, into 2, so he can use them for his own revenge. In this era, Toma is none other than Maikage. Sylvia has also been reincarnated as Mikono. This is where the story ends for now, and it is up to the team to write the remaining chapters. Mikono wakes up in Kagura's arms and immediately apologizes for not realizing his feelings. At that moment, Schrade finally finds the right tune for his music. He creates a perfect melody that helps his friends escape the dimensional gate. As he plays, he recalls his entire life. Aquarian splits apart, and Schrade dies in the dimensional gate. Cayenne feels Schrade's death from Vega, and cries for his lost friend and rival. The myth for the future is now written in blood. Zessica and her Vector arrive in Altair, and she begins searching for Amada. She encounters Maikage, who tells her it's time to fulfill her promise. He takes control of her body and traps her in the Soul Realm. Izumo and the abductors find Kagura, who is with Mikono, and demand that he hand her over, but Kagura refuses. Just as he is about to eliminate Kagura, Zessica arrives. Unbeknownst to them, the figure before them is Maikage, not Zessica. Zessica tells Kagura that he is the chosen one and should summon the mythic Aquarian. Kagura follows her advice, and the mythic Aquarian appears. Maikage, Mikono, and Kagura enter the Aquarian and confront Izumo and his men. Mikage is pleased that everything is going according to his plan. Back on Vega, the team is concerned about the world becoming imbalanced. They haven't heard from Amada or the others. They need to reach Alter, but there is no gate available. Just then, Andy declares that he will find a way. He once created a gate by accident, but this time he will do it intentionally. He asks the director for permission, and she grants it. Meanwhile, in Alter, the mythic Aquarian is surrounded by abductors. With a single strike, it destroys all the abductors, leaving only Izumo. Izumo realizes the mythic Aquarian is powerful, but he believes his gneiss can match it. He absorbs the damage from the Aquarian and retaliates. Kagura uses his reversal power to block the attack, resulting in a standoff between them. Suddenly, Mix arrives to support Izumo. Mikono is surprised to see her. Back on Vega, Cayenne, Malloy, and Andy set out. Driven by his determination to save his lover, Andy successfully creates the dimensional gate. In Alter, Mix hears someone calling her name, but she resists because she has become someone else. Kagura punches her, and Mikono tells him to stop, insisting that Mix is her friend. Izumo retaliates and delivers a fatal blow to the mythic Aquarian. Meanwhile, Amada wakes up to a voice calling him and moves toward it. The battle between the machines continues. Kagura knocks Mix to the ground and prepares to deliver a finishing blow when Andy and his team arrive in Aquarian Gapart. Cayenne confirms with fake Zessica that Shrade is truly dead. Andy attempts to reach out to Mix with his words, but she refuses to listen. A fight breaks out between the two. The mythic Aquarian continues to attack Izumo. Izumo asks Kagura if he doesn't want to save Alter, and Kagura says yes. Kagura only cares about his woman, Mikono. As long as he has Mikono, he doesn't care if the world ends. Amada reaches the pod station and finds out that his mother, Alicia, is the one calling out to him. The fight between Andy and Mix continues, and Mix is starting to remember the good memories she had with Andy. In the cryo station, Amada yells at his mother, Alicia, for abandoning him all this time. Alicia says she is not asking for Amada's forgiveness, but she will tell him why she left. Alicia reveals that Amada's father is Izumo, which shocks Amada. Alicia then narrates how she met Izumo. Izumo came to Vega when their women died out, and his aircraft crashed. Alicia found him and cared for him. They got close, and Izumo later returned to Alter without telling the authorities. However, he was sure that Mikage knew what was going on. Izumo later returned after a few years, and Alicia had given birth to Amada. Izumo told her about what they are facing on Alter, and Alicia volunteered to go because she loves Izumo. She didn't want to take Amada with her because she didn't want to put him in danger. Upon hearing this, Amada reveals that he had always been angry at Alicia, but he has now forgiven her. He understands why she left him. Izumo is still battling Kagura. Izumo tells Kagura that he cannot lose to him because he is not ready to let Alicia's sacrifice go to waste. Just then, Izumo takes all the energy from the city into his machine, making him extremely powerful and dangerous. He fires a warning shot that the mythic Aquarian finds hard to dodge. He tells Kagura to give up or he will finish him off. Seeing this, Mikage takes control of the mythic Aquarian and shoots towards the cryo station where Alicia is. This distracts Izumo, and he flies in the direction of the cryo station. The explosion eliminates Alicia, but Amada manages to make it out of there. Amada is now vengeful because of his mother's death. Because Izumo has his back turned on Kagura, Mikage tells him to end Kagura when he has the chance. Kagura penetrates Izumo's armor with the Mugen Punch, which seems to be the end of Izumo. However, Izumo shocks them when he makes a U-turn and fires off a powerful blast that splits the mythic Aquarian into vector machines. The machines fall off, and Izumo also crash lands near the cryo station. Amada runs toward his father's crash site and helps Izumo up, telling him that he now knows everything. Izumo apologizes for taking Alicia away from Amada. Just then, Izumo notices the presence of mayflies in the area, which he says disappeared when the women also died out. He realizes that the construction of the Iron Sea City was the cause of the women's deaths, as the city has been drawing the mother's energy from the planet, causing the females to die off. Izumo falls to the ground, feeling that his whole life has been futile. He passes on with this in mind, but Alicia's spirit appears to him and takes him away. Amada can also see his mother's spirit. Alicia assures Izumo that his effort will not be in vain, as their son, Amata, will reunite the two worlds. Amada is now only thinking about revenge. He blames Kagura for taking away the two people he has always longed for, and he is determined to never forgive Kagura for this. Elsewhere, Kagura wakes up inside his vector machine and immediately starts looking for Mikono. He looks back to see Amada's vector coming toward him. Amada is coming with a vengeful heart, and Kagura can even feel it. Amada blames him for killing their father, Izumo, who is now dead because of Kagura. Amada transforms into an incomplete mechanical angel and knocks Kagura to the rock. Kagura realizes that he is one with Amada, which means he should be able to transform just like him. Kagura transforms into an incomplete mechanical angel just like Amada, and the battle continues. With the two soul fragments against each other, Altair leaves its orbit and starts moving toward Vega, which is clearly visible in Vega's atmosphere. Meanwhile, Andy is still battling with Mix. He is trying to get her to come back to her senses, and he has used so much of his power but Mix is still rejecting him. Cayenne tells Andy to be careful because he might pass out from the excessive use of his power. Andy pins Mix to a rock and comes out of the machine, walking toward Mix. He tries to reach Mix with his words, but it is not working. Mix is about to terminate Andy when he talks about filling up the big hole in her heart. This immediately triggers Mix's memories, and she comes back to her senses, remembering who Andy is. Mix is shy to face Andy, but he assures her that he will always be with her no matter who she is. He is ready to stay with her even if she is a guy. Andy and Mix are finally ready to merge after all this while, but Kreia substitutes them with Yunoha. The fight between Kagura and Amada continues. Amada condemns Kagura for having everything he ever wanted on Alter, and still going ahead to ruin it. Kagura then reveals that he had no idea that their parents were on Alter. He was raised by My Cage, who treated him like a slave, and Kagura never felt comfortable with My Cage. Kagura punches Amada into the river, but Amada comes back out because of his will to punish Kagura. With Alter getting closer to Vega, Kreia leaves her seat to find Zen. Zen knows what My Cage is trying to do. He wants to merge the two worlds together to become the ruler. Kreia asks Zen if he wants My Cage to succeed with his plan, but Zen disappears instead of answering. As the battle between Kagura and Amada continues, Mikono wakes up in one of the vector machines and sees the two fighting. She is hurt by this and says the two should not be fighting. She takes off and goes after the two, but My Cage intercepts her. He tells her that she will be merging with him, not the two. Mikono finally realizes that My Cage has taken over Zessica's body. My Cage narrates how he was betrayed by his love, Apollonius, when Apollo brought the offer for them to merge and save the world. My Cage thought Apollo was the reincarnation of Apollonius, but during the merging, he realized he was wrong and was betrayed by Apollonius twice. My Cage reveals that the reason he wants to create a world of his own and be the ruler is because he was betrayed by his love, Apollonius, when Apollo brought the offer for them to merge and save the world. My Cage forcefully merges with Mikono, causing her to scream out in pain. Amada and Kagura hear her scream. My Cage transforms into an incomplete Aquarian and starts to take in all the energy in Alter. Just then, Malloy, Cayenne, and Yunoha arrive. Malloy tells Amada to take his place and merge with the team. Amada accepts the offer, and they merge into Aquarian evil. Amada charges toward My Cage, but My Cage easily repels his attacks and mocks Amada for thinking he can defeat him with such a weak machine. My Cage forces Kagura to bend to his will and takes over his vector forcefully too. With this, My Cage has 3 parts, and he transforms into a dark Aquarian, standing tall in the sky. The stage is now set for the final battle between My Cage and the team, Dark Aquarian versus Aquarian Evil. Amada throws the Mugen punch at My Cage, but My Cage easily catches the punch and replies with 4 attack punches that leave Amada and his team shaking. Kagura wakes up in the labyrinth of My Cage's mind and sees Zessica, who is also trapped inside My Cage's mind. She asks Kagura to terminate her so My Cage will no longer be able to operate. This is the only sacrifice she can make for Amada, she says, as her love for Amada is strong. But she doesn't want Amada to lose Mikono. My Cage currently has Amada and his team in a chokehold. Amada and his team are already scared that the merging will be cancelled if it continues. Kagura holds Zessica's neck and presses it tight. And as life starts to leave Zessica's body, My Cage is affected by this and forced to release Amada and his team. Just then, Kagura changes his mind and doesn't want Zessica to die for Amada. My Cage gets angry and says he doesn't need Zessica or Kagura again, as he already has Mikono, who is the absolute power, and she is the one he needs to merge with. He ejects Zessica and Kagura from his mind and merges with only Mikono. He then awakens a dark sun that covers Vega. Everywhere starts to get hot, and it will make everything dry up if care is not taken. Cayenne and Yunoha are forcibly ejected, canceling the merging. Amada has no way of fighting My Cage with just one vector machine. Just then, Mix and Andy show up to support him. To make things easier, Shrade's soul also provides melody for the team. Zessica and Malloy also join the fight. To make everything complete, Director Kreia also volunteers to pilot one of the machines and merge with them. Cayenne and Yunoha return to their machines as well. They now have more than enough hands to fight My Cage, and Shrade continues to help the team with the melody of his soul. They all merge together to form their respective Aquarian. Even with all hands on deck, My Cage appears to be tougher than expected. Several attacks are thrown at the machine, but he easily takes in the damage. Amada is not ready to give up and continues to charge at My Cage. My Cage is forced to extend his arms and draw the 2 planets to each other, starting to suck the life out of them. In My Cage's mind, Mikono sees an image of My Cage in pain. He feels betrayed because Mikono took away the person he loves. She gets scared and turns away, but Zen appears to her and tells her to continue watching because there are things she needs to see. After Zen has said this, he disappears again. My Cage punches Amada's Aquarian and forces it to split up. Zessica and Kagura see this and jump in to assist. Amada is surprised to see the two, and he thanks them both for their help. They merge together to become Aquarian Evil once again. In My Cage's mind, Mikono can clearly see how much My Cage loves Apollonius. Mikono realizes that she has been the cause of the breakage between the two. She faces My Cage and apologizes to him, telling him that he can do whatever he wants to her, but he should spare those in the world. Amada comes rushing, and Zessica and Kagura provide support for him, but My Cage shoots them away with an energy blast. The elements get thrown away, and Amada finds himself flying in a soul state. Just then, Jin's voice resonates with Yunoha, reminding her that they are always together, and he didn't leave. Yunoha powers up the machine and shoots a powerful blast at My Cage. Amada continues drifting in the soul state, but the voices of his friends call out to him. His parents' voices also call out to him at that moment, and Amada snaps out of the state and activates his wings. He is able to carry Aquarian and easily move around My Cage. Kagura also provides support to Amada. Even with all the obstacles in front of him, Amada is able to escape them and grab Mikono away from My Cage. The Aquarian's name changes from evil to love. Amada and Mikono show their powerful love to everyone by kissing. The tears from their eyes soak the planet and reverse the effect of the dark sun. Their love also connects the two planets together, and the torn-apart worlds are connected because of Amada and Mikono's love for each other. My Cage's soul is evicted, and he flies through space. He gets caught in Zen's hands, and it turns out that Zen is the Apollonius of this era. Apollonius places My Cage in his heart so he can continue to sleep there, even though Apollonius has betrayed him twice. After the dust has settled, Amada emerges from the water carrying Mikono in his hands. Everyone, including Kagura, rushes over to meet them. Zen appears and tells everyone that the ban on romance is now officially lifted. With this, Amada and Mikono's love rewrites the myth from 24,000 years ago and sets everything straight.